Hi, I'm Patricia Greenberg, and welcome to It's Okay to Be Old, a show about all things aging well. Well, there's a saying about helping people: give a man a fish and you feed him for a day, teach him how to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. Well, debut novelist R.W. Fields, in his moving coming of age story, The Mullet Man, could rewrite that to say, fish with someone who's different from you, and both of you come to understand each other better. The
Yes.
Mullet Man is an amazing story about forging friendship across the racial divide, and an amazing second act for being a debut novelist at 82. This really reinforces my belief that it's never too late to do the things you love, pursue dreams, people, and places, and have a rich, full life at any age. Author R.W. Fields is here joining us to tell us his story and how he came to write The Mullet Man. Thank you for coming. I am so looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you for having me, Patricia, and thank you, your audience, for taking their time to listen to this old man talk about something that changed his life.
Now,
Okay.
you're a former government scientist and businessman. We could talk a little bit about that later, but I would love for you to just start telling us why you wrote this book, Mullet Man, at 82 years old. I cannot tell you how I commend you for that. That's really the crux of the story for me.
Well, it happened as a result of many conversations I had with a gentleman who became a very close friend of mine. He was wise. He was a Renaissance man, and he asked me one day. He said, "Dick, who are you?" I said, "What do you mean, Frank?" Frank Crescido, who I dedicated the book to, The Mullet Man. I said, "What do you mean, Frank? You know me. I mean, we've talked together for years now." He says, "No." He says, "I know what you've accomplished. I know what you've done, and you know what you've done. But do you know who you are? Do you know where you want to go and what you really want to do, and who you are? And not only that, to find to grow and be a better person. That's what that'll help you do." And that's what started me to write. I started writing poetry. I started writing my cogitations, but then I got into writing something that was personal for me, which is The Mullet Man, about when I was 11, 12 years old, experiences that I vividly remember to this day. And I started writing that to get a sense of purpose. So that's why I started writing the book. And I didn't write this for a book. My poetry, I don't publish. My cogitations, I never published. But Frank come to me one day. He read the manuscript and he said, "Dick, this is a treasure of sorts, and you must publish it." That was the inspiration, and I owe it all to him. So I did. I published the book.
Amazing. Now, the book is called The Mullet Man, and a lot of people may not know this, but a mullet is a type of fish.
Yes, it is, and it's a down there in Florida. It's still a very economic fish to catch and to eat too.
Mhm.
But down there in Florida at the time, it was a wonderful fish to catch. They can live in salt water. They can live in brackish water, a little bit of fresh water. So and they jump out of the water when you can see them coming, which is a fantastic thing. Yeah.
And I think
And
our audience who are fish people who like to fish can appreciate that. But I also like this to be a little bit of an education about what it is as
yeah,
well. But RW, this story is about you, a coming of age tale set in the 1950s South where racism was rampant.
yeah.
And the local boys that you were friends with liked to go to the river and fish. Mullet Man was a fisherman, black, older man, sitting on the other side of the river from all of you and your friends. So tell us how this unfolded.
Well, being an avid fisherman, I befriended one boy in particular. He was a little older. He was 1 year older than I was, but his name was Freddie. And Freddie and I bonded because of fishing. We loved to fish. So we're at the creek one day, and when I was first down there, and I look across the creek, and I see this black man sitting on the other bank of the creek, and it was all like swampy area, trees and swamps and that. And on our side of the creek was all mowed down, and you could go there, sit there with a chair and fish. That's where most of the people fished. fact, that's what all of them fished except the Mullet Man. Now I'm sitting there and I'm watching him. We're fishing and he's catching mullet after mullet, big ones. So said to, I said to Freddie, why aren't we over there catching those fish? And Freddie looks at me like I'm crazy. He says, "Man, that old black man over there, he didn't use black, but
He used it,
he
yeah,
says,
unfortunately.
he said, you don't want to go over there. He's crazy. Even the even the black people down here don't like him. And I said, well, he's catching fish. So what triggered me to do it was that my desire to go over there and catch fish. And when I did, it was the best. It was the best choice I ever made because if I would have stayed in on one side of the creek, I would have never met him. I would have never seen or learned, more importantly, the significance of me crossing that creek, going through the marsh, going through the water, going through the snakes and everything like that, to go there and fish with him.
Let me tell
And
you,
not to fish with him.
as a little boy, did you buy into the fear? Like, what made
No,
you get up and say, I'm going to go do this? I want to learn from this man. It's
I
extraordinary.
hadn't
11
I
years.
hadn't been indoctrinated. I
Okay.
hadn't been brought up in that. That's the thing that if you got to explain anything, it's scary.
Hmm.
It's like a disease. It's still like a disease. If but when I was 11 and a half years old, I hadn't been indoctrinated to that. I
Hmm.
hadn't lived in that culture. I lived in something that was totally different. At least a hell of, excuse me, at least a heck of a lot different than what it was in West Gannett, Florida in the mid 50s. Okay. And that was an experience I'll never forget. Um,
Now you
if
lost
it,
you lost some friends in the process of being kind
yeah, yeah,
and befriending an older black man, which I
yeah, yeah.
suspect the others must have been afraid of, and it would have been totally antithetical to what they were brought up. And you know, another level of courage is to continue to pursue this friendship at the cost of your other relationships with other people in town. That is really a stepping out of the norm that you rarely see in a young boy, especially in those days.
Well, I'd like to, again, I wasn't, I just wasn't aware or exposed to the kind of hatred that some of these other kids were. Not all of them now. I don't want to say all of them, but
Mhm.
some of them that were really indoctrinated into this. And it it came to me one day that when I went to fish with the Mullet Man, I didn't. Freddie didn't come with me, and he was so upset. But more importantly, it was his parents that were upset that I would dare to go over and fish with some crazy that nobody liked, not even his own kind. And why would I do that? And she didn't think it was right for Freddie and me to be friends anymore. We eventually got into a big brouhaha but about me and Freddie, not, and my
Yeah.
parents told me, don't see him anymore. So I didn't.
So your parents
I,
sided with you, which is amazing. Now,
oh yeah.
yeah, in the story, I encourage everybody to read it. I was riveted. RW can tell you I stayed up all night just to finish it. I mean, it's small, it's more like a novella, but I just loved it. Now, you weaved some extraordinary coincidences about your
Yes.
family and the Mullet Man's family into the book. Tell us, more importantly, I mean, you could tell us the story, but I really, really loved how you described how your father thought they were different than the other colored people in town. Talk to me about that.
Well, I guess it really I guess it really started one Saturday. I think what you're referring to was when my dad stopped to change a
Yes.
tire.
Yes.
Okay.
And you later found out the coincidence, right?
Yeah, we're going down the road. He sees this black woman, hot. I mean, you can't believe how hot it was. July. I don't. It was just unbelievably hot and humid.
Okay.
He pulls about 20 yards in front of her, gets out, asks her very politely, "Can I help you?" And she just gets up and she's soaking wet and she looks at him. She doesn't say anything. It's important that she has the lug wrench in her hand. Right? Here's this big white guy,
Yeah.
right? And he says, "Can I help you?" And she says, I can't get the lugs off my tire. They must be rusted or something like that. So my dad says, I would like to help you. So she says, yes, she gives him the lug. He goes over there, changes the tire, gets it all done and everything like that. And the beauty of this thing is that this episode was she stood there and didn't say a word. She stood by the truck, by the door. And when my dad got done, he put everything in the truck, put it all away. She comes on over to him and she hands him a dollar bill. Now, a dollar bill in those days was a lot of money. People wouldn't understand that today, but that was a lot of money. Really a lot of money to the black people.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Really a lot of money. And my dad says, no, thank you. I wanted to help you, and I did. And so she just stood there, and she's by, and we got in the car, we started driving away. I looked out, and she's standing there still by the car, by her door, with a dollar, looking at us go. I hope I conveyed that in the book.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
That's important.
Absolutely. Very important.
She knew right then and there something had happened. It wasn't a coincidence. It wasn't. And
it was divine intervention. I mean, I just listened to the story, and yeah.
All I can say is I've reached a point in my life. I no longer believe in coincidences.
Right.
I no longer believe in coincidence. Now, some people say, "Oh, you're naive," and that, but no. So anyway, come to find out, we shared a lot. Yuli's family was they were Christian. But they didn't attend church every Sunday, which got them into trouble with, but that was something that when my parents found out about, well, my dad knew about it and told my mom, we didn't know exactly what it meant at that time. It was only later that we tied the significance of it together. So,
yeah, so for the audience's benefit, as RW, because this is autobiographical, but also it reads like a novel more than a memoir. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Later, when he befriends the Mullet Man, whose name is Uli, turns out it was his wife who had the flat tire.
Bingo.
Your family's put that together, which is amazing. I thought one of the most touching scenes in the book is when Richie gave the Jackie Robinson baseball card to Uli. Now,
oh wow,
baseball and fishing were your life, right? And
yep.
And when you meet this man, and baseball and fishing is his passion. How wonderful is that? So tell the story about the baseball card, because I thought that was wonderful.
Okay. I'm talking one day with Julie, and we're talking about who the greatest baseball players were. And I said, well, because he was born on my birthday, August 30th, was Ted Williams. Okay. And I said, well, if you know Ted Williams, there are many people who think he was the greatest hitter of all time. So I was at that age, I said, well, Ted Williams. And of course, I was from that neck of the woods, being up there when I was born in Boston Red Sox. Hell, he's the greatest player of all time. And Yuli says, no, he wasn't. I said, what do you mean, Yuli? I know all his averages. He says, I know all the averages. And he says, yeah, he says, but averages don't tell you the whole story. He says, I'll tell you who the greatest ball player was. I said, well, who's that? He says, Jackie Robinson. And I said, well, Yuli, you're right. He was a great ball player. He was an incredible ball player. I said, he did things that no one else done. He said, yeah. But he said this. He said, do you know there was places that he couldn't go and even stay with the team? He couldn't live in the hotel. All the time he'd go out to the field, people were throwing stuff at him, yelling at him, calling him bad names, and yet he still played. And not only did he still play, he never once gave him cause to treat him the way they treated him. And now, you remember how the blacks treated Yuli? He never gave them cause.
Yeah.
Do you see the connection here?
Absolutely.
So, that's why I see the connection is so important.
It gives you the chills that he kept going in the same circumstances when he was made fun of and ostracized the same way Jackie Robinson did.
Right. Well,
I'm going to tell you a little aside. I'm a Dodgers fan, and a couple of maybe a month or two ago, it was Jackie Robinson night. So we all got Jackie Robinson shirts with 42 on it, and it was a amazing tribute with his children and grandchildren. Whoever's alive of his descendants were there for the occasion. So that's a little funny
Yep.
little aside that I wanted to share with you about it.
Yeah.
But this is just always telling you this almost cryptically, like in other words, the analogies are there, and he didn't have to spell it out. And I again, it's an incredibly thoughtful, insightful place for an 11-year-old boy to be. What maturity you had as your age today in the world we are today, looking back. Do you see how extraordinary that was? I mean, at the time you probably didn't feel it. Some people discover things and want to shout it from the rooftops. You just kind of rolled with it.
I at that time, I just accepted it. The thing that really, of course, if the rest of the story was that when I gave Yuli the baseball card, he never thought he'd ever see a black ever play in the major leagues. And I told him that there was a Jackie Robinson card. He said, "Well, where can I get one?" I said, "Well, Yuli, it's hard to get them because the card company makes you buy a whole bunch of them. They don't tell you where you get the card."
Yeah.
So, but I found out a way to get them. And the rest of the story is just as interesting as the boy who had a card of Jackie Robinson. And it was his name was Quarterman, Lynn Quarterman. And I didn't know it at the time, but Lynn was black and white, but he was really white. But he went to our school. Our school was segregated, but he went to the school because he was so light. And a chapter in the book that I suggest everyone really try to read is the chapter when I go on over to Lynn's house to get the Jackie Robinson card to swap with him. Okay. And the finish of the story for your readers is that, well, I'll let them read that and they can find a fit how I gave the card to Jackie Robinson card to Yuli and what Yuli gave me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. And it's, again, I got chills reading that whole section of the story, how that unfolded.
Well,
Now,
thank you.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. And RW, you were a military kid, and you unfortunately or fortunately, you could look at it both ways, moved a lot, an awful lot as a child. And so when you left town and you abruptly had to leave your home and leave Uli and leave that beautiful river of fishing that you were out,
Yep.
you accepted it with a lot of grace. I have to say that you were both terribly sad, you and Uli, the Mullet Man, when
Yep.
you were leaving. But you just understood that was life, and he understood that was life. But did that affect your ability to become closer with people going forward? Did that leave you scarred in a sense that made it hard to bond with others going forward?
Not at all.
Hmm.
Not at all. It didn't. And I never even thought about that. I lost a friend, but I had lost a lot of friends.
Hmm.
But it wasn't until really later on in life. In fact, when I was starting to write the book, that I realized what a significant, what that was significance. And another event happened to me that brought it all back to memory. And I don't know if you have the time, maybe we'll do another conversation and I could tell you what that event was. But it also concerned another black man. And it was when we were fishing. I was fishing with my buddy Gary and we got stuck and we needed to get the truck and he volunteered to pull us out. And the story goes on from there, which is, I will tell you some other time. I don't think we have the time to tell you that,
Okay.
but
Okay.
no, I had moved so often. Patricia, I'd moved so often. It was I knew I could make new friends, and as long as I was at a place where I was fishing, I was happy. And I would just had an ability to make new friends all the times. I just always never had a problem. Never
I
had that
have a
problem.
question that again, I want to be a little bit brief in the interest of time, but later on, you served in the military during the Vietnam era.
Yes.
You had
Yep.
mentioned you were stationed in Germany. How
Yep.
did racism rear its head during that war? And we did you get involved
Yeah.
in that at all? Good, bad,
Well,
different.
it had a heck of an effect on me because I went first into the military. I I was just naive and just as opening to everybody as I could. I made a lot of friends with a lot of the black soldiers, but I also found out that there was a lot of the black soldiers there who didn't like me because I was white. And that's something that's got to be understood about in our society today. Racism just don't go one way. It's a
Right.
two-way street.
Right.
And I'm not saying that what I am saying is no one's got justification to be that. If you're a good person and you want to grow, you take everybody for who they are and what they are. And I'll tell you, well, we don't have, but there was an incident that I could really exemplify, but I don't think we have time to talk about it. But no, but in spite of that, I just went along through life and just it didn't it didn't bother. I'm having a mind break here. It
That's
didn't
okay.
bother me that much. And it didn't affect me with making friends with people. Um, I think what affected me more was just living through life, just going through life and getting enough, getting the rough edges in that you get in life naturally. And I'm not immune to that. I never was. So,
This was RW, this was a very small moment in time in the grand scheme of your life. It was a blip in your overall history, yet it stays with you and it shaped your beliefs throughout your whole entire life. And I think we don't have enough time for you to tell me all the lessons that you learned from this and what brings us 70 years later, more, right?
Yep.
Of after this experience, these, like you said, these singular moments and these things that happen through our lives. I just have this, like, do you have a quick takeaway? a brief something that, how it positively, obviously it's positively impacted your life, but can you tell us a little bit about the effect it's had on you, this moment in time?
Well, obviously, I remembered it all these years later. So somewhere, it got stashed in my head. When you read chapter 5 about the young, the white boy, Bobo Griever, who was, barefoot, and the poverty. You don't understand poverty until you actually are in it, and it's outside your door, waiting all the time for it. But how it affected me? Well, I may not have ever written the book, the manuscript, again, if it wasn't for Frank. Frank drilled this into me. What is your purpose? Go for it. Find your purpose. And in our discussions, this is something I like to give to your listeners out there right now. I don't care how old you are. By listening, and I mean really listening, and not listening to what I call the nonsense of the noise, which comes at you every moment of every day if you let it. The messaging, the gossip, the screaming and shouting and the lies and everything. It's all nonsense. My advice to your folks out there: you want to change yourself, you want to get away from that.
Right.
Get away from it. Whatever you got to do to get away from that, and that will help you think. I see so many people today. Frank asked me, "Well, who you are?" Well, I don't know. I never thought about who I was.
I know you're so engrossed in the day-to-day craziness of the world, you can't find yourself. Yes, that's very true.
And this may sound old and dated and all that, but that is what I found we got to do. Just step back and get rid of the nonsense of the noise.
So did you feel confident at this stage to say, I'm going to write a book and it's going to do well, and I'm going to find an editor, and did you even know the logistics of what?
No, I didn't. Yeah. I wrote the manuscript. And what pushed me in that direction was Frank. He comes out one day, I gave him the manuscript, he reads it, and my heart is in my throat, right? And I'm saying, well, what's he going to say about this? And he looks at me, pauses, we're in his backyard, and he looks at me and says, Dick, he held it out, this is, he says, this is a treasure of sorts. I said, "Holy smokes!" I said, I was just elated, and I he said, "You got to publish this." I talked with an editor who I got to know very well. He said, "Dick, you've got to publish this." I didn't internally myself determine this,
Hmm.
but based
Hmm.
upon their guidance and that, I said, "Okay." I never did this for any great purpose that make a lot of money or anything like that. I did it out of a sense of purpose. And that's why I published the book. That's why I'm talking with Patricia right now. And that all of that is part of the search for your purpose. That's in my opinion. I don't know. You're
Beautiful,
seeking it.
beautifully well said. And it's like whether you get on with me or you get around and get it out there, or it's just for your own, it serves a purpose and gives you a renewed sense of giving back to the world. And that's what I always say, you can do that at any age. RW, my big question to you is, did
Okay.
you ever try to find those friends from that time? Did you ever uh, do a search or go back there and see if you could find that, though,
I
the
did.
world has changed so much. So tell us
I
about
I
that
went, yep.
quest.
I
Mhm.
went back there when I started writing the book. I went to Jacksonville. Then I specifically went to West Connecticut and I tried to find a place that we lived on Linwood Avenue there.
Mhm.
And I couldn't tell. I thought I saw the house, but after all these years, but,
Yeah.
but I was able to find the Fishing Creek. And
Okay.
when someone tells you, you never want to go back, you know, you're always disappointed. Well, I was always disappointed. Fishing Creek was really no longer what it was as I
Mhm.
remembered
Mhm.
it. There
Mhm.
was a shopping cart in the middle of it. The water was still there, but it wasn't as wide and deep. And, things happened over the years, that changed the flow of the water and all that other stuff. But that was disappointing. But and looking for people, obviously, a lot of them were passed.
Oh, of course. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
they were dead.
yeah.
The people that I did know there, they were transferred. Most of them were like me, in the military. They were transferred out after a while. Um, I didn't know that many of the locals. Most of the people the locals that I did know were kids I played ball with,
Mhm.
or pitched baseball cards with, or played marbles with, or played baseball with in the school. But I'm sure I never got back to looking those folks up. I just went back and I saw what the stream looked like, and had a great effect on me. It really did.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, so today, you still a Boston Red Sox fan?
Oh yeah. Well, yes, I am. I follow them.
Mhm.
Um, And I was at, as a little side note for your friends there, 1967, me and a buddy of mine, when the Sox finally got into the World Series, they're playing the St. Louis Cardinals. Seventh game, the pitcher, the great Bob Gibson, is pitching for the Cardinals. Jim Lomborg was pitching for the Red Sox. We got standing room seats only, cost us $20 from a scalper a pop, which was a lot of money in
Oh
those
yeah.
days.
Oh yeah.
And
Mhm.
I was there, but we lost. But
Mhm.
there's Yastrzemski at a great ball club at that time, and it was exciting just to be there. But they were up against Gibson, and
Oh yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that was a tough chore to beat that man. Yeah.
And
So
again, I want to make that analogy that, then it was like you went and you didn't think about it and you didn't have cell phones and you didn't have all these distractions and these electronic billboards. You just went and it was a wonderful afternoon or evening at the park. Now,
right.
everything gets in the way. But do you still like to go to games? Is it something that you do?
No, and that's sort of the thing that really I've had to deal with personally. I don't like the change that I've seen in baseball. I'm a traditionalist, if you haven't figured that out, but I'm a traditionalist.
Yeah.
I watched some of the greats play ball. I saw Mays and Mantle. I even saw Ted Williams at the end of his career.
Mm.
Hank Aaron. I saw some of the great Sandy Koufax, Whitey Ford. I mean, and the great Dodgers. I can tell you who were on the Dodgers
Yeah.
team when they used to play the Yankees
Yeah.
all the time. And but they changed the game. I didn't like the concept of a designated hitter.
Hmm.
I didn't like that at all. I just didn't like that. It changed the purpose of the game. One of the great things Ted Williams said about baseball is the difference. is when you get in that batter's box and that man's throwing the ball 100 miles an hour at you, and you don't know if he's going to hit you in the head or not, you're going to be thinking, you really think there's an element of fear in there.
Yes.
And when you take the pitcher out of the game and he no longer had to stand in that batter's box to face the other pitcher after he threw at somebody, it changed the concept of the game. And that the headgear they wear, the
Oh
chill
yeah. Yeah.
pads, I mean, they look like they're an armored truck going on up there. And what they don't worry about getting hurt.
Yeah.
Well, those old timers, they knew what it was
they were
like.
tough. They were tough cookies.
They're different.
Yeah. RW, I can't thank you enough for joining me today. This has been amazing. In the interest of time, we could stay here all day. But in closing, I want to thank you so much for your sharing your amazing story and for being here today and telling us the perspective of looking back. And so I always like to ask my guests, what do you like about getting older?
I think what I like about getting older is that I've got to a point in my life where now I appreciate a lot of the little things that we used to take for granted. It's not the big things. It's a lot of the little things. In that I find I'm taking more notice of them. I'm into flowers now.
Yeah.
I love flowers. I'm playing and just the little simplest thing about flowers and a lot of things in life. That's what I like, and it's also given me a sense of direction. I got I can see some nice paths that I can go down. Doors are opening to me all the time, and now I'm selecting now what door I want to go into. That's fun.
Yeah.
That's fun, and it's creative. I'm getting a lot of enjoyment out of it, and I hope your listeners get this out of this. Just go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Just get rid of the nonsense of the noise. Sit down and think. Think. First of all, the other thing is listen. I love now listening to what other people say because I actually listen to them and I'm processing I'm not thinking about something else to say to them. I'm listening to what they're saying to me. I don't know if I made that clear or not.
Yeah.
But listening to them, and that's how you learn. I'm not saying you're going to agree with it, but you can listen and you can learn from that. So, I don't know. That's where I'm coming from. I'm glad I'm where I'm at. I'm glad I get to talk with Patricia on this. And anytime you want to talk with me, put me on your show. I'd love to do it.
I look forward to more conversations. Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us here at It's Okay to Be Old. And for more information about me and the show, you can reach out at www.patriciagreenberg.com. Thanks again and stay well and stay safe.